Some of you may have heard of the platinum rule versus the golden rule, right? So the golden rule is treat others how you would like to be treated. The platinum rule, if you haven't heard it, is treat others how they would like to be treated, right? That's kind of the next step. And so this is, I don't want to just love James how I like to be loved, because I receive love differently than he does. It lands differently. I want to love him how he likes to be loved.
Hello and welcome to Married and Magnetic, the place for entrepreneurial couples who want to stay happily married.
In each episode, we have real conversations with ordinary couples doing extraordinary things, sharing achievements, everyday joys, challenges, and the mindset and tools that make love the greatest strategic edge.
We are James
And Angela Mitchell.
A real-life married couple. She's a counselor.
And he's a coach.
Parents to 3 kids.
And co-founders of Love Intentionally. We've ridden the highs
and lows
of building businesses while working hard to stay happily married. We've lived it, done the work,
got the t-shirt,
and are here to help you do the same.
This is Married and Magnetic, where love, business, and growth collide. Let's dive in, y'all. Hello. Welcome to another episode of Married and Magnetic, a Love Intentionally podcast. We are your hosts, James.
And Angela.
Together we're the Mitchells and co-founders, as we like to say, co-creators. Period. Definitely co-creators here at Love Intentionally. So this is going to be an episode with the two of us. We think it's important that you get to know our hearts a little bit in this work, and for us to share some of the things that have been the most effective in helping us love intentionally.
And this is kind of exciting because it's our first time recording in this podcast studio, which it's a little fancy. I'm feeling a little fancy. And I did just deem myself right before we hit record the tech goddess for the day, which if you know me, James laughed when I said it. But I did set up all the technology because he had another call before this. And I think it's working. If not, we'll just delete this episode.
I appreciated the for the day thing. It's like, I'm not doing this. I'm not the tech goddess, but
no.
I'm still the IT department is what that meant.
Yeah, he's still IT department. But in a pinch, I got all the wires working. I even think I organized the wires a little bit. They're going to be happy with me.
Yeah. So these are the things that we do to stay connected. And with that, thank you for this episode. One of the things that we're really passionate and want to bring to you today is about connection. We find that there's 3 pillars to really operating an intentional life and intentional marriage. Pillar number 1 is the vision. Where are we taking this thing? We like to call that the relationship North Star. Pillar number 2 is the strategy and the logistics that are going to get us there. Those can be more of the goals, the milestones that we're working to hit towards those larger, bigger goals that we have in life, and then just managing the day-to-day. And then the 3rd pillar is the connection and intimacy. And we look at that as what makes this all worth it. We can build this life, co-create whatever we want, but it's the connection that we get to experience and be present in once we have that success that makes all of this energy and effort worth it. So those are our 3 pillars. And today we're going to really cue in on the connection side.
Yeah. And because this is part of our own story and our path is, you know, when we started out, we knew from the start we wanted to be intentional, right? And so we did our first marriage retreat when we were engaged and went through all the things and created our vision for the life we wanted and our plan to get there. And in those early years, the connection was easy, right? Because we were young and in love and didn't have as many children then to get in the way. Love them, love those children. And so the connection part kind of just happened without much effort. And so we were intentional about the other 2 parts, the vision and the strategic life plan. And that all worked great. And we were creating the life we wanted. We were meeting these goals we had set financially and career-wise and health and fitness, all the kind of areas that we were being intentional about were really working. So much so that that's when our friends started saying, oh, what is this you're doing? What is this marriage retreat thing you do? Can you share it with us? And we started doing that. So those were great. Then we got into that really busy season where we started having more kids. I already had Soren when we came into the relationship, but we had the 2 girls, just 2 years apart. So all of a sudden we had 3 kids. You were out hustling in real estate, working some nights and weekends, showing houses and all the things that entails in the hustle phase. And we were just busy. And that was when, to me, I don't know if you have the same take on it, but that was when, to me, the connection that had been really easy and had happened without much effort was just taking a backseat. We still loved each other and we were still honestly getting along. We weren't fighting much. It was just that when all these other things were demanding our attention, because we had crying babies and toddlers throwing fits and
investment properties.
Yeah. And you were working and clients calling and you were putting out fires and kids, Soren needed to get to baseball or whatever sport he was in that season. And so it was just, almost because we were okay and like getting along, and we took our connection for granted in some ways, I think, it was able just to take a backseat because it wasn't flashing this big red light at us like the other things in our life. And so we were kind of there like, okay, yeah, we'll get to that when we have time. We'll have a date night the next time we have a grandparent come in town or whatever it was. And we just stopped being intentional about that piece, or maybe never even started being intentional about it because we didn't need to in the beginning.
Yeah, it was really easy, and we wanted to connect. This is my bestie, right? And so the more time we spent together, the better. And when we were stepping into the life that we dreamed of and hitting our goals, it comes with extra responsibility. Choosing to live a life of entrepreneurship, of just a bigger life and a dream life, comes with a lot of responsibility and extra, right? Having investments and managing the money, it's extra. Having kids and having another one is extra. And we were sitting there in this moment where we were looking back and we had all the things that we had planned out. So about 7-8 years after we got married, we had the amount of kids we wanted. We had the house we wanted. We had a lot of the investment properties and investments that we wanted. And we're just sitting there spinning the plates, juggling the balls. And our relationship was always so solid that we could trust that that was always going to be there. And that's taking it for granted started to kick in a little bit. And regardless of how we were showing up or not showing up, this subtle, silent, slow drift did kick in, where it's, hey, I haven't really connected with you in a week or 2 weeks or a month, or we did connect, but it just didn't land the way that it used to because my head is off in so many places. I'm having trouble being present here because there's another 17 things I need to try to do before I go to bed tonight. And so the time that we would have to connect, especially with kids after they go to bed, was turning into more of a work session than a connection session. And that's when
we were just exhausted.
Or a sleep session. Lots, yeah, trying to get some of that in too. And in that busy, hectic, chaotic season of life, we learned after going through one of those and leaning into the chaos instead of leaning into each other, that leaning into each other was the greatest X factor in helping us manage that extra, manage all the responsibilities, and really feel like it was worth it, right? It's like, hey, I got everything we quote unquote wanted, but man, we're not feeling great. So what's the point of all this? And that's where some of these tools came, and really the extra call and the inspiration we got to bring this to the table.
Yeah, and I think, just to kind of highlight where we were at, in case you're there or have been there, is that what I notice, like we sometimes ask on this podcast, we'll ask couples, like, what's the check engine light for your relationship, right? When do you notice that maybe your relationship is needing more attention? And I know for me, it's when I start having those like little resentments build, which usually how I can tell that's happening is because I start keeping score.
Yeah.
And mine is often around like, well, I've made dinner the last 4 nights and that's supposed to be his job. Or I've like done all the, whatever it is.
When was
tasks.
the last time he unloaded the dishwasher?
Yeah, exactly. Have you ever unloaded? Just kidding. maybe not.
We'll talk about roles and responsibilities in another episode.
Yeah, that'll be another episode. But that's when I start. And when I start noticing like, well, he's not doing this or I'm doing this more. And I start doing that keeping score and building resentment. When we're really connected, I feel like that stuff goes really seamless and we feel like a team. And yes, I might be unloading the dishwasher more, but you're also taking out the trash more, right? Like, and so I don't keep score on it because I feel like we're on the same team and we're both, I don't know, doing our part. And when we're not connected is when I notice myself doing that.
That's what I notice her doing that too.
What do you notice you doing? What's your check engine like when you can tell we're disconnected?
It is the amount of physical touch or the softness of it. I can tell in the way you kiss me. When I go in to kiss you, like if you slow down, you soften, and you give me a good old kiss, I'm like, great, we're connected, things are awesome. There's just a difference, and it's not like you're cold or upset with me. It's that you almost feel like you're too busy to slow down and have the kiss. And so it's like the quick one, and you're trying to get back to what you were doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I feel that. And so I think there was a lot of that happening. And I would say, I might keep score around responsibilities and the household labor and the mental load that I was carrying. And I think your keeping score is usually around intimacy.
Yeah. Am I the only one? This is the phrasing in my brain, right? Am I the only one making bids for connection? Am I getting rejected? Am I always initiating and trying to create connection? And a lot of the times, though, it is around intimacy. And that's been one of the challenges we've overcome is, I would come in for a kiss and I think you would believe that I was just going for the whole shebang, right? Like,
Yeah, and I didn't have time for the whole shebang.
right. And so then I wasn't getting anything. I wasn't getting the type of connection through physical intimacy, not just sexual, but physical intimacy. I'm a huge physical touch love language guy, numero uno. So when I'm wanting that, but I'm not getting it, and I feel like I'm always right. So we coach, don't use always or never. And that's when I get there. I'm always the one really trying to bring us together in this intimacy of connection. And the intimacy is also what I've learned is not exactly what I always pictured it back then. And we're going to talk about that some more today too.
Yeah, and I think as far as that, what you were saying about, if you'd come in for a kiss or a hug and I would not lean into it, it was because the story in my head was, if I do, then you might expect more and I don't have more to give right now, whether time or energy. And I think back then, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, back then, if I had, I think, responded like passionately, you probably would have taken the opportunity to try to turn it into something more because you weren't getting as much as you wanted at that point. And so it's almost like if you saw a window, you did take it, right? And so then so I felt like I had to be like gatekeeper of the window, like keep the window shut unless I'm available. And I think one of the things we both learned over time that really helped, and something we've, coached other couples on, is that really establishing physical touch without it leading to anything else, right? And you've done a good job of like coaching often men, if we're going along gender lines, although not always, but often, for men to be able to say like, hey, this is just a hug. Like, I'm not going anywhere with this, or let's just give massages with nothing expected afterwards. And that the other partner then can more easily lean into it because they know they're not, that it can just be that, and they can actually enjoy that and not have to shut that door to, oh, I'm afraid it's leading to something else and I don't have the time or energy for that right now.
Yeah.
And then often when you do actually lean into it, then sometimes there is the result of like, oh, actually, this does feel really good. And now I am more open to it than I was before, right? It's like an interesting dynamic that can happen there.
Yeah, and that's the core of how we can manage the check engine lights around our connection. And ultimately, like where we might be feeling lack, identifying that in ourselves and managing that, not really looking to her to fill that, but finding ways to be able to meet each other more in that.
Yeah. So we thought it might be helpful. That's a little bit about how we got to some of these tools, but to share some of them with you if you find yourself in a season like this. I know there's lots of entrepreneurs that listen to this podcast, and everyone really, but entrepreneurs in particular are busy, right? There's not a clock in, clock out. There's, business can really bleed into your evenings and your weekends, or just mentally, just even in your mental space. And so those busy seasons where we have to be really intentional about our connection and intimacy, we learned these tools that have really helped us. So the first thing we did was, and I might have said this on a previous podcast, but we just got to the point we kept trying to figure it out on our own because we really felt like we had the tools, partly because we did have tools.
A little stubborn.
But yeah, and I think it's also different. Even if you are a counselor and a coach, it's different when it's your own relationship, right? Like you can't see your blind spots that you might be able to see in a couple you're working with. Or it's why therapists need therapists, right? Most counselors I know also see a therapist on their own, right? Or with their partner, because you can't see your blind spots. You can't read the label from inside the bottle, right? So we did, after we tried some things ourselves, just mainly talking about it, kind of stuff, we realized we needed more help. So we got help. So that was step number one. And then through that help, we learned some tools, either through our counselor coaches or ones we came up with on our own, that really then helped us get connected, but then also sustain the connection. Something we say a lot is that we want a resilient connection. And we've worked really hard at that, because for a while then we got connected, but then if we got an argument or something, we could
the old pattern would
thrown
kick back
out.
In,
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, we're in the old pattern again.
And it could feel like you're going back to square one, and like, oh, we did all this work and now we're right back here, right? And then you got to rebuild it, and then you get back to connected, and then life happens. Somebody stressed, someone threw out their back, maybe James this week, although he's been great. He's doing great. And it just throws you out again. And so we really wanted our connection to be more resilient, knowing that we could have those little bumps in the road, whether something life threw at us that was stressful or we got in a disagreement, and it didn't throw the whole connection off. It just kind of was like, all right, bump in the road, and then we could get pretty quickly back to connection. So that's something we've worked really hard at. And I think those systems that we're going to talk about have helped us be more resilient in our connection.
So the intention here is to get you to thriving, marriage that is thriving. And we would get to stable, maybe sustainable at best. And then the disconnection would happen and we would go right back into almost survival mode. All right, we're back at the basics. It's kind of this primal thing. We're fighting about the same thing or disconnected about the same thing again. We would claw our way back to feeling stable or like, okay, we can sustain this, right? Sustainable. But man, it's about thriving. And so when we can stay connected and then put these tools on top of an already solid, resilient connection, now we can thrive instead of always going from like baseline to under baseline to baseline to under baseline. And it's the same amount of energy. It's just starting from a more neutral place or a more solid place so you can get to a more energy wealthy place that will help drive us and you to the goals you really have. Because again, for me, when we're not connected, I'm almost like, what's the point of doing this stuff? Why are we building this life together if we're not connected? And that is why our connection is the base and the fuel for all that we get to do now.
Yeah. So step one, and we talk about this as our framework, so I'll kind of go through it though briefly. So framework is, we call it the codes framework. So the CO really is that container. We will need to set a safe space to talk about this and work on this. So we do that by carving out like times that are in the calendar, whether it's our weekly meeting, at our annual retreat, at our quarterly date night where we talk about this stuff, to check in on those things. And in that space, the idea is the intention is to check in on these things, see what's going great, see where we might need to work on things, and go from there. So that always works much better than trying to talk about it in the moment when emotions are higher, right? That's not the time to go, well, I've been meaning to tell you, you never initiate, right? Like it's just not going to go well. And so we set those times apart. And then the second thing is that it's what we call discovery. The D in codes is for discovery. And that's where we are really learning about ourselves and each other. And that's where we're going to get into some of the tools today. I think it's really, I love different, like if you've ever taken a personality assessment, if you know what your Myers-Briggs are, or your true colors, or your strengths finder, but learning about yourself and your partner gives you common language. It gives you an understanding, a self-awareness and awareness of them. And it also gives you common language to talk about some of these things in ways that feel non-judgmental, right? So like, oh, that's just, if you know true colors, just my gold coming out, which golds are very organized. And so rather than saying you're so anal retentive, right? It's just like,
I've
oh,
never said that.
You thought it, I know. But instead of that, kind of judgmental language, it's like, oh, that's her gold coming out. She's being super uber organized right now.
It's more honoring in a common language. And so the discovery helps me to be a little more curious and her to be a little more curious about what's really going on underneath this that is driving the current situation.
So what you must want to assume thinks a lot of you may be familiar with love languages. Okay, I do think it's a valuable quiz to take. You can take it for free online. And it helps you identify, and I say it's like important really to go with the top two on what are your top couple love languages. They're all valuable. Usually we have a little percentage of all five or at least four. I've had some people get a 0 on one category, but you have some parts of you that like all the different love languages. But those top two are going to be the ones where when your partner does that, it really helps you to feel loved. And what can happen with having different love languages, which the whole opposite attracts thing can be very true, right? So often we have a different love language from our spouse or partner, and they might be thinking they're showing us all this love because they're doing it in their love language, but it's not our love language. So we're not really receiving it or seeing it as them being loving, right? They're speaking French and we only understand Portuguese.
When we got together, by the way, if it's been a while since you've taken love language, take it again because we shift, we evolve, we change over time. When Angela and I met, she was a single mom and acts of service was her biggest love language.
But that needed some help.
And so when she was trying to show me love, she would do the floors, do my laundry. And I'm like, this is great to scratch my back.
Stop mopping the floors and come over and give me
Give
a
me some
hug.
attention, right? And so I noticed what she was doing. And so then I was like, all right, let's show her some love. And so then I started doing extra acts of service around the house. And what we found out was
Over time, that changed. And actually, once I had the help and support, it wasn't my number one love language anymore. I didn't need it so much. Before, that was just the area that I was like lacking in. And so that was what I wanted. And then once I had that, I had this partner who was, doing a partner. And then that wasn't actually. Words of affirmation was my number one love language. And so then it got to a point where I was like, no, maybe you don't have to mop the floors. Just, tell me how great I am. Tell me I'm pretty and I'm a great mom.
Tell her how great she is at mopping the floors.
Right. Which she would much rather do than actually mop the floors.
Yeah, somebody's got to mop them, So those are a couple of little nuances to how the love languages work. The next piece of after we go through discovery, we move into E. And E is?
Exploration. But I was going to say more on discovery.
Say more.
Say more. When you're looking at intimacy, and we could do a whole podcast on this alone, but there's similar to love languages for intimacy and sex in particular, there is something called the erotic blueprints. It is a paid quiz. We are not associated with them, so we make no money off of this. We just have found it useful for ourselves. So you can find that online as well. And that's basically your love language for sex and intimacy. And
mostly
those were
sexual
most
intimacy.
Sexual intimacy. Yeah, not like emotional intimacy. And so those were also really helpful for us to learn and understand the differences we had in there and how to meet each other in that, especially for James, who that type of intimacy is very high on his list, right? So we needed to figure out ways to make sure we were meeting each other there as well, in addition to the love languages. And as a result of that, kind of looking at the love languages and the erotic blueprints and just all the stuff we were learning and discovering, we came up with our own quiz on intimacy styles. And so that is really looking at intimacy holistically, so not just sexual intimacy, but a lot of people have stuff on intimacy styles, to be fair, but we really narrowed down the 7 that we think are most important, that really move the needle the most for couples. And so that is emotional intimacy, physical intimacy, so not sexual, but just like think of affection, holding hands, a hug, that kind of thing. Sexual intimacy, which is the only type, James.
You were talking about intimacy. We're going to be intimate. I was like,
ooh,
okay, naked? Like, clearly, right? Let's go.
He didn't know there was all these other types when we first got married.
It was really helpful when I did.
Yeah. Intellectual, right? So some of us get really inspired and feel connected by having that deep intellectual conversation, sharing thoughts on a podcast or a book. Spiritual. So for whether that's religious or not, sharing in that sense of this higher purpose, higher meaning to life, higher power even. People can, sometimes it's important to connect on those levels. Experiential. So those of you that like to go do things together, you like to go salsa dancing and that's the way you connect, or you like to go mountain biking or traveling, concerts, whatever it might be, but having those shared interests and even new experiences that you enjoy doing new experiences with your person. And then the last one that we kind of coined, I haven't seen it anywhere else out there anyway, is we call creation intimacy. And that's where we have found that there is this deep intimacy with us that gets created by creating, right? That we can build this connection because we are both really invested and excited about the life we are creating together. And that can be for entrepreneurial couples. It can be part the businesses we're creating and the work we're doing in the world, but it can also just be our life, our family, our community, how we're showing up in the world, and really building this life together for us has been a source of excitement and connection and kept us on this path together. So, that is another part of discovery, is you could also do that quiz, and you can find that one on our website, loveintentionally.com. It's free, but find out what your intimacy style is. So that's all I have to say about discovery. Now you can move on.
It's great. To the E. Okay. And E is?
Explore and embody.
Yeah. So now that we've identified, we've set the container, We've discovered and been curious and gotten some common language and just really gotten to know ourselves, know thyself, and our lover, our spouse, our partner, whatever you like to call them, your ride or die, better. Now we can get into the exploration phase. Okay, now that we've done this discovery, how do we put some of this into play, into practice to see what sticks, right? To see how the conversation and what we've dreamed up actually lands in person. How does it feel when we step into that? Try it on.
So, something we created from all this information is it comes from the idea of wouldn't it be nice if your spouse, partner, ride or die came with a manual? I thought about this with my children too.
Or a womanual.
Womanual. I like womanual.
We'll
Doesn't
workshop
roll off
that
the
later.
tongue quite as well, but we'll work on it.
It can be nasty.
Okay.
Manual.
So I thought the same thing when I had children. I'm like, oh, these like people are just like letting me take this baby home from the hospital. Like they don't even know. I don't know how to take care of this thing. They didn't come with a manual. So neither did he and nor I. And so that's where the idea spurred. And it was like, well, we could make each other a manual of sorts. And it's easy. There's not pages involved. It actually can all be done on one page. But it's what we call the How to Love Me list.
Huge. This was a big turning point on two fronts. The personal front was me checking in and what makes me feel loved. And it was really great because once I figured out and gave myself permission and time and space to figure out what made me feel loved, then I could get super clear on that. And when I was super clear on that, and it also kind of put me in a position to where when I stated this is how I feel loved, when it came in, it gave me more permission to say, okay, well, this is what being loved feels like. And so when she would do the thing, show up for me in that way, I almost didn't have, like it took away almost any excuse to be like, oh, it wasn't right or something wasn't there or whatever. And so I got to fully step into owning the receiving of love the way that I want it. And so, if it didn't land, I can always change it. And it still was an opportunity to fully receive, which is something that I think a lot of people, a lot of humans in general get to practice on a regular basis is the receiving. And then on the other side, it got me super clear on what I can do to help my beloved feel the love that I have for her so it will be fully received, right? So I'm speaking the same language. Not only that, I'm speaking her language. I'm showing up the way that she needs it, and it takes all the guesswork out of it.
Yeah. It's some of you may have heard of the platinum rule versus the golden rule, right? So the golden rule is treat others how you would like to be treated. The platinum rule, if you haven't heard it, is treat others how they would like to be treated, right? That's kind of the
Huge.
next step. And so this is, I don't want to just love James how I like to be loved because I receive love differently than he does. It lands differently. I want to love him how he likes to be loved, right? And so that's where this list really comes in. The actual list is pretty simple. We do encourage reflection, like James said, is like really sitting with yourself and going, when do I feel loved? These can be times like things they're already doing. Like I put on mine when he makes the morning coffee, which he does 90% of the time already. It's something he does most mornings, but I do feel loved. It's like this feeling kind of taken care of when he just like has my coffee, which by the way has like 5 different things in it because I do all the supplements and stuff. So it's kind of a complicated coffee and he does it and he like will even sometimes bring it to me when I get out of the shower. So that makes me feel loved.
Because she just got out of the shower, yeah.
There's an ulterior motive there.
We all win. We look for win-wins anywhere we can find them.
So something he already does, right? Sometimes it's things, maybe it's like I think back and I go, oh, I really felt loved at this one, season in our life. What was going on then, right? And maybe there was something we were doing that was helping that connection. Or sometimes it's something I just come up with. I'm like, this is something we haven't really done, but I think I'd really like it.
Wouldn't it be nice?
Wouldn't it be nice?
If.
And it's okay to put all of those things on there. So part of it, does require reflection and really sitting with yourself and getting clear with yourself on what are the things and being okay owning it, right? Like not being embarrassed or afraid to ask or feel like you're not worthy of it, but just really going, what can they do that helps me feel loved? And then writing them down.
Before we get to writing them down,
okay.
Let's go back to the discovery, right? So remember, love languages, erotic blueprints, and our intimacy styles quiz are 3 that we really base this off of. And with those 3, you can get the job done. There might be some more out there that you want to dive into, but those 3 are going to create an amazing baseline for you.
So for instance, if words of affirmation was high on your love languages, you might think as you're writing list, what are the words of affirmation I would want to hear? Because they're not usually just about anything. Maybe it's I'm in this season of like I'm momming hard. And for someone to acknowledge that I'm doing a great job as a mom would feel awesome. Okay, so maybe I want words of affirmation around that. So, what words of affirmation specifically would I want to hear?
Specifically being the key. Because if you just put words of affirmation, it's not going to be that very simple, say this thing, I feel loved. And we're still taking the guesswork out of it. Like, well, they should know what words of affirmation are. No, they don't. If they did, they'd probably already be doing it. And just make it really simple. And even if they actually do know, let's just break it down for a season that says, just do this thing. Let's practice at a base level. And it doesn't matter if you've been together for, a year, 40 years, these work. And this type of clarity works.
So we get real specific.
We
write them down.
Shoot for 10, right? It's like, well, hey, if I'm physical touch, it's like when we're driving the car, I want you to reach over, I want you to scratch my back, or like give me a little like head scratch. Like those things feel really great. If it's around intimacy styles, if it's like I like experiential intimacy, that's very high on my list. It's like, well, what kind of experiences? Well, I want you to curate a date like once a month. Like I know I generally like to plan those things, and it's nice to sometimes get to show up, as everybody on this call can agree and attest to.
I would say too that with that specificity, which is a hard word to say for some reason, is frequency. Okay, so if I say, I want you to plan a trip for us, I'm not expecting you to plan a trip for us every week, right? Maybe I want an annual trip that we do together. Maybe I want to do it every 5 years for our anniversary, right? But some specificity on timing and frequency can help. We have a cute story about this.
Yeah, one of our clients, she wanted to get love notes left around, little sticky notes, little surprise love notes, right? And he was like, great, I can do that.
So she put it on her list.
And then it turned into an everyday thing. And
then they turned into like novels. He was writing pages, which is very sweet. He took the homework to heart. He really wanted to make her feel loved.
He went above and beyond. And we get back on a coaching call and we're like, how's it going? And she identified that it was more about the surprise than it was about length or frequency. She wanted the surprise of it.
So the fact that he was writing her novels every day actually wasn't landing because she was knowing they were coming. And honestly, she was like, I don't have time to read a novel every day. I just wanted like a surprise note on my windshield once a week or something,
Babe, your butt looks nice today.
Yeah. He could have saved himself a lot of work. So specificity and on frequency as well can help. So you do your 10 and then you sit down and share them with each other.
Yeah. Once I've got my 10, she's got her 10. Más o menos, which means more or less if you don't speak Spanglish. We sit down at an intentional container. This is our time and our space to do this. Ideally, it's not when we're tired. It's when we're well-resourced, and we share it. She gets to look at my list and ask for clarifying questions.
Yep. So you get clarification you need, and then...
And consent.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, I've got this thing on my list. Are you available for those kinds of things? And if you're not, be honest. Like, maybe not in this season. Okay, what's something else that I can do to love you? Maybe in that same language.
Yeah. But or noted that noted. I if that becomes available.
Yeah.
Then I've noted that you would like that.
It can be challenging to have sexual intimacy every day. So you can write that down, and that one might get like let's work on, here's what I'm available for in this season.
Yeah.
Okay.
So get clarity.
Super clear.
And then this goes into our end of the codes framework, our 4 steps. So we had container, we had discovery, we had explore and embody, but the sustaining is you're going to then post that list of 10 items. So I'm going to put James's list. He's going to put my list somewhere where we see it every day. So it could be your bathroom mirror. So you see it when you're brushing your teeth. It could be in the drawer that you keep your toothpaste, right? Maybe if it's not a good one for public display and your kids come in your bathroom, it could be inside of your underwear drawer, whatever, but a place you're going to see it every day.
Ideally early in the day.
Yeah. And then the job is, and this is part embodying it and part sustaining it, but is to pick one thing from the list each day to do for your person.
Just one thing a day. Does that feel doable? Hopefully you're nodding your head.
They're nodding out there. I can tell energetically.
Yeah, it feels good. Just one thing a day so they feel loved and we're continuing to fill the tank up. Like, heck yeah, let's do it. And the earlier you do it, the better. And a couple nuance pieces to this. Don't do the same one every day. right? Try to, like, don't try it. Switch it up. It's like I've done 1, 2, and 3 the last few days because those were easy. They don't take much time. And what are the ones that I'm potentially avoiding, or the ones that feel like they're just a little extra right now? I don't have the energy. Just
Or
pay
maybe
attention.
you try, after you've done it a few times, you try a different version of that one, right? So they wanted words of affirmation around parenting, like I said before. So maybe I just switch up the words I'm using a little bit and see if that still lands, right? Just add some flavor and variety into it. Still on the same theme that they asked for, but just playing with it a little bit.
Because we're talking about pattern interruption. We're talking about creating new patterns. Like, we got these old ruts that we get stuck in, and this is an opportunity to expand the palette of our love, our language, so it's given and received more and more fully, right? So when we want to step into this new thing, we want to make sure that it sticks. And if you haven't been doing this, and this is a new thing, just like any new habit, it takes a little while to catch on. So Angela, when we first started, like, she'd have to, like, consciously think, oh, reach over and just, like, scratch his back, or reach over when we're driving in the car. So if we're familiar with the ideas of changing new habits, we start with this unconscious incompetence. We don't know what we don't know. Then we move into conscious incompetence.
Now we know what we don't know.
Wow, okay. Like, oh, he wants his back scratched. Then we move into conscious competence, where when I think about the thing, I can do the thing, but I have to think about it. I have to put some energy and some effort into making sure that I am performing this task or doing the thing. And eventually, when we do that long enough, it goes into unconscious competence. It's on autopilot. We can do it without thinking. It just becomes a part of our daily flow.
So when he wanted, like a puppy, he just wanted to pet some more back of his neck, the other thing I was doing with that is a technique called habit stacking, right? So if you're trying to create a new habit, you attach it to like a specific thing you do. So maybe, I don't know, if you're trying to learn some new Spanish words, you go over a vocabulary while you're brushing your teeth. So every time you brush your teeth, you think of, oh yeah, what are the new Spanish words I learned this week? Whatever. I'm just making up an example. So what I did for that was anytime we were in the car, that was my trigger, my remembering to reach over and touch him. So I would put my hand on his leg or the back of his neck. And so at first it was very conscious, right? I would think about it and be like, oh, we're in the car, touch him, and then after a while, that just became habit as well. That unconscious competence, like he was talking about, where we would get in the car and I would naturally just kind of reach over and hold his hand or put my hand on his leg. And it just became part of what I did, right? I didn't have to think about it anymore. There wasn't efforting to it.
And of all the things that we have the privilege of doing in our life and marriage that we're building together, and the habits that we have for the strategy and the logistics and working towards our vision, it's back to sometimes we get a little feedback. It's like, it's just one more thing, right? One more thing. And this is the most important thing, because your life that you have together exists because you are together. And if you're not together, the life doesn't exist anymore. And so this is where putting energy and attention and intention toward this one thing is going to have the largest long scale, lifelong impact that you have. Yeah.
Great. So I would say that's how you do the How to Love Me list.
Yeah. So set the container, go through your discovery, get on the same page about what these things are, write down up to 10 things from the discovery that you had about yourself, and things you already know, things that are already happening, things that you'd like to happen, things that have never happened, or they have and you just want more of them. Write those 10 things down. Share, and then post the list somewhere you get to see it. I look at her list every day, and I just pick one thing in the morning. What am I going to have space and capacity, desire and interest to deliver today? And then I do that as soon as I can so we can set the day off on the right tone. Because when we fill up each other's hearts, love at the beginning of the day, that gets to spill over into everything else that we're doing for the rest of the day.
Yeah.
Simple.
And these are good to revisit from time to time. Maybe this is because we're recording this a couple weeks away from New Year's, that I think like the beginning of the year can be a great time. Just to reset them and go, oh, okay, how do I want to be loved this year?
Yeah.
Right.
And if you're new to this, please don't wait a year. Like, check in about a week later and then about a month later, right? Change your lists around, give the feedback, right? And this is also, don't take things personally. Like, hey, I only wanted like surprise notes, right? And so it's like, don't take that personally. This is how they're asking for what they want and giving you a clear instruction list on how to do it. So just follow the instruction manual that, gosh, you probably wish you would have had from the moment you got engaged. Can be this easy, y'all.
Yep.
One thing a day. Y'all in? Still nodding. Yeah, I can feel you nodding over there. Like this is
Energetic nodding.
doable. This is simple. And sometimes what's simple is not easy, right? Because, all right, it can bring stuff up to receive that love. And it's like, is it right? Do I say it right? There's just so much richness in the doing and then the practicing, and then just using those to lean in every single time and be honest with how it's actually working out and adjust. That's what the best marriages do, y'all.
All right. We love y'all. Thanks
Love
for
you lots.
listening, and go out there and love intentionally.
Yeah. Love intentionally. And if you make your list, come let us know what's going on. Catch
Yeah.
us on our school community. Tell us how it's working for you. We'd love to hear from you. If you like this podcast, if it changed your life even in 1% of a good direction, go ahead, like it, subscribe it, leave us, that as 5-star reviews, all the things you can do, and share it with people that you care about and the marriages that you are surrounded with that you would like to see be stronger, more intentional, and just full of love.
All right. Love y'all.
Love you.